The Falkenbergs, a 9/11 tragedy.
Oh, thinking about all our younger years, there was only you and me. We were young and
On September 11th, 2001, 8:46 a.m., Mohammed Atta and his team of hijackers crashed Flight 11, which took off from Boston, bound for Los Angeles, into floors 93 to 99 of the World Trade Center's North Tower, killing everyone aboard and hundreds inside the tower. Most people's immediate reaction was that a small plane had accidentally crashed into the tower. 9:03 a.m., the hijacking team on Flight 175, taking off from Boston and bound for Los Angeles, crashed the plane into floors 75 to 85 of the World Trade Center's South Tower, killing everyone on board and many inside the building. At this point, people realized that this wasn't an accident. 9:37 a.m., the hijacking team on Flight 77, leaving from Dulles International Airport outside of Washington, D.C., and heading to Los Angeles, crashed the plane into the western wing of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., killing 59 people aboard the plane, plus 125 military and civilian personnel inside the building. 10:07 a.m., passengers and crew members on the hijacked Flight 93 from Newark International Airport, on its way to San Francisco, contacted family members and friends on the ground. When they were informed about the Pentagon and Twin Tower attacks, they made an attempt to retake control of the plane. In response, the hijackers deliberately crashed the plane into a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, killing all 40 passengers and crew members aboard. 5:20 p.m. Both towers of the World Trade Center collapsed after burning for hours. The buildings had been evacuated in the morning, but the collapse forces rescue workers to flee for their lives. Even though I wasn't born yet, the tragedy of 9/11 has directly impacted my life because my cousins were on Flight 77 that crashed into the Pentagon. Their names were Leslie Whittington, Charles, Zoe, and Dana Falkenberg. Charles and Leslie were 45 at the time of the attacks, while Zoe was 8 and Dana was 3. My oldest brother Will was the only child of my parents born at the time. He was 2 at the time of the attacks. Charlie was a research director for Ecologic Corporation and had been involved with NASA. Leslie was an associate professor at Georgetown University. She had been awarded a position at the Australian National University in Canberra. That's why they were flying on September 11th. The family lived in University Park, Maryland, before planning on taking a few months-long trip to Australia. Leslie was known for her wit, teaching, organizing skills, and ability to do outstanding research on important economic topics that affected children and families. She was a proud member of the PTA, Neighborhood Babysitting Co-op, and also volunteered at other places numerous times. She had a PhD in economics from the University of Colorado. She was a genuine, kind-hearted soul that loved her family and friends. Her sister Amy said she was very smart and funny in a dry and sometimes sarcastic way. She was an excellent mom, nurturing and empowering her children, equipping them not only with education, but life skills and values. Charlie was very good at science and software engineering. He was known by many of his friends and coworkers as a devoted father, community activist, and energy-filled volunteer for the PTA and Adelphi Dolphin Swim Club. Charles was a scholar student. He graduated with bachelor's and master's degrees from the University of Maryland, College Park, where he had served as a faculty research scientist. He was easygoing, exceedingly friendly, and curious about others. Amy described him as having red curly hair and a mustache, so he looked like a really sweet devil. Charles and Leslie got married in 1984, far after graduating from the same high school. According to everyone who knew them, when they had their children, they were their main focus in life. Zoe was just like her mother, very determined and smart. She was a top student at our elementary school and was kept busy with Girl Scouts, ballet classes, and swim team. She was in a few school productions and was liked by everyone she knew. Dana was a feisty girl. She looked just like Charlie, red curly hair and all, loved princesses, and had a fabulous giggle. She was very intense, but so funny that she brought so much joy to their lives every day. She had recently celebrated her 3rd birthday with her grandparents. The 2 girls were well loved by their friends, family, nannies, teachers, and the University Park community. The whole Falkenberg-Whittington family were amazing people. They were a determined, talented, loving family who didn't deserve to die so soon. Their friends and family share stories of what amazing people they were. To help understand how this tragedy affected them and to reflect on their feelings almost 20 years later, I interviewed Leslie's siblings, Mike Whittington and Amy Hamilton.
Well, they were a really close family. The best thing about Charlie and Leslie is that they're very curious. They're both educated and lifelong learners, so they instilled that into their kids. The kids were very inquisitive and smart and excited to learn new things about the world. I was at work and I had seen the World Trade Center tower collapse, and then got a phone call from my dad. Picked it up in a conference room, and he told me that it was most likely that they were on that plane. I was crushed, obviously, and went home and watched the news like everybody else. Best memories would be family events like Dana's christening. Family weddings were always fun. We did a family reunion the year before in the Colorado mountains, so it was the last time I saw Leslie and Zoe. Charlie and Dana had to stay back because he had to work, but those are the best events, I think. Talking to Leslie about her not being able to come to my wedding. So we were getting married in October of 2001, and she said she couldn't go because they were headed to Australia, and I thought it would be sad not to see them, but really excited for them to have such a great family adventure. I've gone to the Pentagon Memorial dedication, been there a few times, and brought my kids there a couple times, and coworkers and friends, and anybody I can drag along to come see it. At first, it was gave me a feeling of not being secure. So if this can happen to somebody like that, such innocent and loving people, that kind of thing can happen to everybody. But over the years, it's just more sadness and not understanding why something so random happens to such good people. We could have done a better job at screening, because I think we understood that bad people wanted to do these kinds of things long before they actually did it. As a loving family, the thing that separates them is they were really a family unit, loved each other, traveled all the time together, did everything as a group. Nice and happy people and very curious people. Strange as it sounds, it's sort of fitting that they all passed away together as a family, because that's how they lived their lives.
Amy describes the memorials as very peaceful. 9/11 impressed upon her two things. One, that we had to get our affairs in order right away, wills, trusts, guardians for our children if something were to ever happen to us. And two, that life is way, way too short and uncertain, and to cherish each other, spend time together, and to not waste time by fighting or holding grudges. A memory that Amy has of the family was when she was married. Leslie was very pregnant with Zoe and couldn't travel to the wedding, but Charlie went all by himself to support them and to represent his family. When Zoe was about 3, they went to visit Amy in California. They were all out to dinner at a Mexican restaurant, and Les and Charlie showed her and her husband Rick what being a parent looks like. This included sticking tortilla dough on their noses when Zoe asked, coloring and reading with endless patience, scooping Zoe into their arms after Zoe accidentally swallowed an ice cube, panicked, and had a little meltdown. Amy described Leslie as the one who united their family. She brought all the rougher edges together. Amy knew that they were leaving soon, but didn't know that they were flying that day. She had watched the TV coverage in the morning, feeling dumbfounded as most Americans did. For the entire day, she walked through her life grieving as a fellow American citizen. When she got home, her husband sat her down and broke the news. Amy cried and called her dad. Her father had already lost his oldest son, Greg, about 10 years earlier, and the loss of Leslie, Charlie, and the girls is something that he never completely recovered from. One of my favorite quotes from Amy is, "The loss of them is hard to describe. To lose them all at once, an entire family, is surreal. More than the loss of one person. It felt like something was trying to erase this beautiful family from existence. As a family, we sometimes debate the meaning of them all dying together, if there is meaning in it. We wonder, were they such a wonderful, loving family that they had to leave together so that none of them would have to live without the others? It was a tragedy that they died, but they went down all together, as a family, like they love to be." The only thing that makes Amy furious is picturing the last 15 minutes of their lives when they knew that the situation was very bad and what they must have been thinking. And she knows that their last thoughts and actions were all about caring for their girls, probably one on each lap until the very end. That's the only part she hasn't been able to make peace with. It's hard to find any triumphs in the death of so many people. However, there have been several positive changes and actions that have come from this tragedy. For example, airport security and safety has gotten stronger and more deliberate after the attacks. There are 2 national memorials for victims of the attack. The Freedom Tower is in New York City, built on the site of the former World Trade Center buildings. They even have a sweater of Dana's found in the wreckage on display. The Pentagon has its own memorial for its victims. This memorial was opened on September 11, 2008. It goes by age, so Dana is at the very beginning. One memorial was made in honor of Zoe called Zoe Zinnias. You plant zinnias in honor of Zoe because they were her favorite flower. A 9/11 organization called Project 2996 even has their logo with a zinnia because of Zoe. The Charles S. Falkenberg Award in honor of Charlie. It's given to a scientist who contributed to the quality of life. It's given out by AGU 100. Georgetown University has started a lecture series called the Whittington Lecture to honor Leslie. Past notable speakers include Elizabeth Warren. I'm going to Washington, D.C. in April for a trip and plan on visiting the memorial and laying a wreath at the Falkenbergs bench. It's a small gesture, but it will serve as a reminder to all who see it to never forget the tragedy of 9/11. Never forget my family.
All that I want